Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live Q&A. And I've prepared some questions that that were in the survey. So I will be going through them. And if you have some questions, as I mentioned, you can put it in the chat. So I'll do it specifically for you. It's definitely related to what I've already read, and that is to use Dropsmarts for specific things for clients as an aromatherapist. I saw a lot of people who use Dropsmart. In the survey, they answered that some of the things they would like to create in their career is being grounded in the pursuit to research and master essential oil chemistry, a way of sharing information that helps people understand the oils, that oils have incredible healing power. So this is aligned with that, getting specific in how to use essential oils for clients so that they can have a simple understanding of how and a realization of how much safer they are to use without getting yourself into legal trouble. So as an aromatherapist, it's very important that you present your information a certain way, that you speak a certain way, that you present essential oils in a certain way. So this is something I thought would be great to touch on today in this live. I see a lot of other mentioning a deeper knowledge of chemistry behind the healing value of essential oils and the confidence to explore different blends, new combinations of essential oils. I hope to get courage and, most importantly, clarity, what to do with essential oils, how to focus on different aspects of aromatherapy, how to blend and be certain what I'm blending or choosing is correct, to be sure in blends that they're safe for children and for the people that I'm using it for. I want to learn how to use Dropsmart completely and totally to grow as an aromatherapist. Another person wrote, to grow as an aromatherapist to a point that I can give a presentation in my country. So it's all very much aligned in having the clarity, the certainty, and some people mentioned courage to what it is that you are presenting, talking about, creating, offering as an aromatherapist. Everybody's mentioning that they would like to have this as a profession or go into expertise, so develop that as well. I would like to be confident using essential oils and also know that I use them safe for me and my family. I have to have the confidence to proceed in my career, to know my path, to better understanding blending and making products, increase my knowledge of putting together a blend. So it's all connected to blending and essential oil chemistry. So for today, I thought that what we could do and cover is how to speak your way to successful career in aromatherapy and also to credibility in this arena. But together with that, to help you have clarity, certainty, and confidence when choosing oils or blends. So this is what I wanted to address today, because it just seems that a lot of people have the same kind of goals and maybe places where they're being stuck. And then with that, we had some technical questions that I will address as we are going through this. So if you don't have anything else to add, or as I'm explaining this, please add in the chat so that I can get to that. But then I'm going to go right ahead and start answering some of these questions. And for that, I will share my screen. So here we are in Dropsmart. And another thing that many people mentioned, but it was more in the context of private information, so I didn't want to really write that, is regarding anxiety and getting over anxiety and fear and similar feelings. So what I wanted to take as an example is, let's say you're doing, you have a client who came to you for help with anxiety, or you're writing an article about using essential oils to relieve anxiety, or you might be having a presentation. So these are all the things that Dropsmarters are mentioning, that they would like to use Dropsmart to help them be better at this. And let's use anxiety as an example. So if you want to really leverage Dropsmart, you want to use the search tool. So here you can search for anxiety. I'm sorry, write that again. So if you write anxiety, or if you reach out for any book, or just Google it, you will see that there are many oils that are for anxiety. And here in Dropsmart, we have almost 300 that are your options. Some you might be typical ones like lavender, everybody knows, geranium, melissa, grapefruit, maybe you want to put them into that group of citruses that we kind of go and use for anxiety. Valerian, definitely, but I would not think of Palo Santo, for example. I don't know about juniper berry, would not be my go-to oil. So you do find oils that are not as popular as well. But again, how do you know which one to use? Which one do you choose, and why do you choose it? That certainty that you're talking about. So for that example, I wanted to start with a blend. So I'm going to show you a blend of a colleague of mine that and then we will look at it and see how we can explain what she did to in your scenario. So whether you're writing an article, or you're having a client in front of you, or you're doing a presentation, whatever it is that you're doing in your profession. And this is my friend from Australia. You probably heard of her, Debbie Atterbury, and it is from her journal. So here, if you want to really read the entire case study, you can go and check it out in her journal. But I chose her blend because she's very specific in sharing information, and what she loves to share is oils that are in Australia. So this is perfect for Dropsmart, because this is where we really shine, to back you up with oils that may be more rare, local, and not have so much information. So how do you then explain why you're using this blend, and how is this useful for your clients, or why is it useful at all? So in her blend, she chose Mandarin petite grain. So this is something you really don't come across often. It's a petite grain, but from Mandarin, and you'll see how interesting the chemistry is. Bergamot, something that we would think of using. Lavender, something that we would all think of using. But spearmint, for example, something I would not think of using. And it's really interesting once you dive into the chemistry of it, it really does make sense. Another question we get about Dropsmart often is, what do you do and how do you use it if you do not have the exact batch of the oil that you're using? And it's quite simple, actually. This gray area here, whether it's when you're looking at the blend, or whether it is you're looking at a specific essential oil, it's for all of the oil. So here, when you have percentages, like what we would be interested is anxiety, for example, you will see that this is for lavender in general. And also, if you scroll down, you will see that it is also recommended for bergamot in general. So the way you use Dropsmart, if you do not have the exact oils that we have in here, is like you would use any book. You go and you look at what you can do with lavender, or which oils are recommended for anxiety to relieve anxiety. And in your book, in your average book, also they're not using the exact batch number that you have in front of you. So you can use it the same way you would use a book or any other database to get information you need on how to use your essential oils effectively. And what we do on top of it, like something that you can really not do in a book, or Google it, or at our conference is we calculate it for you. So here, when you see this 91% for anxiety, what we do is we actually calculate it depending on the ratios here. So in her blend, she used 4 drops of mandarin petit grain, 3 drops of bergamot, 3 drops of lavender, and 1 drop of spearmint. So when we calculate all of that together, we have 91% of the entire blend that has different authors, different aromatherapists, different also research saying, and this is all right here when you click on it, that it has been shown to be effective on anxiety. Okay, so this is how you use Dropsmart when you do not have the exact oils in Dropsmart. You can always look at this gray area here. So it does make sense looking at how much practitioners and other aromatherapists use different essential oils, the ones that Debbie chose. It does make sense to make this blend. If we look at scientific research, though, not much. We have 55%, which is quite good, but we actually have research only on lavender and bergamot. So when we're looking at specific properties right here, what you're looking at is scientific research on the essential oil itself. In this case, we're looking for it in a blend. So for bergamot and for lavender, we do have actually scientific research showing that it is effective on anxiety. And then you can go click more, and then you will go to the article, and then you can actually see how this was conducted and the entire thing, if the article is open, and what you choose to with that further. However, if we take the next step, you will see that down here, we also have interesting calculations. Is this for anxiety or not? We have all of these chemical constituents having research that they're antidepressant, but that is not, we want to get more specific data. What we're actually looking for is anxiolytic. So let me search for that. Here it is, almost 35%, and only these chemical constituents. So the first thing, coming back to your questions, one of the ways that I got my credibility is by being really clear on what I'm talking about. And actually not just clear when I'm saying it, but clear first in my head and then verbalizing it. And that is saying, for example, in Debbie's study, the reason she has chosen these 4 oils are that we do have scientific research for 2 oils being anxiolytic, and that is bergamot with these studies right here, and then you can quote them, and lavender with all of these studies here. And that has been done on the essential oil. However, we have more people recommending other oils as well. Of course, lavender and bergamot, but we also have different authors and journals, for example, saying that petit grain is also beneficial for anxiety. So this is the first distinction. So first, you're separating information on essential oil. This is from research. This is from practical experience. This is from a journal. So be really clear what you're talking about. And this is something that got me, for example, ahead in my career by really knowing where the information comes from. It has a different kind of value to different people. So some people value research more, some people want more hands-on experience and, examples of people actually having results with anxiety. And most of us want both. But then another step is to say, although we can go even deeper and support that this might be an interesting combination, because we haven't seen, for example, spearmint anywhere there. However, it does say that carbon has anxiolytic properties as well, which makes up like 50% of the oil. So even though nobody thought of mentioning that for anxiety, it makes a lot of sense that this could be useful. So then that is the extra layer that's really going to like propel you into expertise, that you really covered all areas of possibilities why this blend is really great. Okay, so let me go even deeper. So this is when we go overall in the blend, but because she has such interesting oils, I really want to show you the oils, and that is mandarin petite grain and spearmint. Another thing I'd like to show you, and this is what we covered in the last live, and you can go take a look at it if you haven't, is take a look at bergamot and lavender. They do cover many of the same chemical constituents, but different ratios. And here I will ask you again, do you think it's necessary to have both bergamot and lavender in the blend if they cover the same constituents? So that could be a little assignment for you to ponder on at home, and then get back to me, or perhaps when we do this replay live in there, to tell me what you think about that. So here's mandarin petite grain, and I wanted to show you this because it's a perfect example of an essential oil that is beautiful, wonderful, local, but has such tiny information on it, okay? And mostly from the same people, because nobody really wrote much about it. We do have safety, but we actually have no scientific research on petite grain, mandarin petite grain at all. No scientific. So this can be a big drawback when you are presenting this oil to clients, or if you're selling the oil and you don't really have scientific evidence to show that this could be an oil that's useful for anxiety. There's some guy there in Croatia who said it might be useful, but you know, it's just one person. Yes, he's a doctor of pharmacology, but you know, you would like more evidence than that. So if you take a look at the constituents, it's very interesting because it has this very unique ester that I'm not going to pronounce because it's very long and complex. But what it has is evidence on antidepressant like action, but also anxiolytic. So it's really cool. And then you can say, we do have over 50% of this chemical constituent in the essential oil that has anxiolytic properties. We do have very tiny bit of linalool, which is surprising in a citrus to have such a little amount of linalool, which also has anxiolytic action. But this is going to sound so much better. However, be very careful that when you're speaking, you are not speaking that mandarin petite grain has evidence that has anxiolytic action. It is the main constituent. And it's this one that you can then try to pronounce or just show it like I am, that has anxiolytic property proven scientifically. And again, I'm going to tell you, it's this clarity. It's just three things that I'm pointing out, and that is scientific research on the essential oil, scientific research on the chemical constituent, and the practical experience of various aromatherapists and professionals that it's useful for this practical application. But if you take the effort to make the distinction when you are recommending it, when you're writing about it, when you're talking about it, and for you to understand the difference, it's really, really going to distinguish you for somebody who's just saying mandarin petite grain, you can use it for anxiety, or be very specific why. So in the same way with spearmint, I found it very interesting. Although spearmint has a lot more research, but spearmint we associate a lot with mint and, you know, the typical repellent stuff, antifungal, antibacterial. You would not connect it so much, maybe with stress, but not anxiety. And you see this big blue chunk here. It is mainly carbon. And this is such an interesting constituent to study because it is a ketone, but a quite safe one. And if you scroll down, it's also an immunomodulator. So it has such great stuff in there. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling too much. Here it is, anxiolytic. So it's so fascinating for me to go and take a look at what chemistry is telling you. And it really makes sense if there is almost 60% of this constituent in the oil, not to mention it does have some other constituents that are going to add to it. It does make sense. So when you look at her blend, if you look at mandarin petite grain, bergamot, lavender, spearmint, and mandarin petite grain make a lot of sense. And now I'm going to show you if we take a look at lavender, actually. And it has tons of evidence and reasons why we want to use it for anxiolytic action. But if we look down here, let's see where it is here. Actually, we do not have that much evidence on the chemical constituents, only on linalool. And that is why I really feel strongly that we need to know what we're talking about. Is it evidence on the chemical constituents of the essential oil? Because sometimes that makes more sense. Or is it on the evidence of the essential oil as just the essential, as the synergy of all of these components? It makes a big difference when you're blending to know what it is that we're talking about. I would guess why lavender is so great, even though it has, as we looked here, only linalool has evidence for anxiolytic. Perhaps they did not do this test on other chemical constituents as well, but I would think that it might be because the other constituent that dominates here is linalyl acetate. And that one, although it does not have evidence for anxiolytic, it does have a sedative. And that can help people who are anxious to calm them down. So it is that combination. But understanding that, being aware of that combo. See, here we have actually more chemical constituents in lavender that are helping us to sedate a person. Having that level of clarity is really going to help you take that next step as a professional and be able to speak in front of anybody, whether it is a client or an audience, small or big, because you will know what it is that you're talking about. Are you talking about the essential oil or are you talking about chemical constituents? And you can always find solid reasons why you chose that oil. If somebody tells you lavender has all this evidence, but why don't we have in chemical constituents? You can always say maybe it was not done, but it does look like a great combo, all of these chemical constituents being sedative, plus a lot of linalool here having anxiolytic action. It is something that is very complementary. So I hope this is helpful in how you can speak your way to success in aromatherapy, how you can boost your credibility, how you can feel confident to, share your information. and that it brought you more clarity. What I do suggest is that you take, let's say, 3 or 5 of your favorite oils, or the oils that you use most commonly in your practice, and just take a look at what is it that you rely on and where it is that you find evidence. Are you finding it in other people's advice and experience? Is that what you are most interested in? Are you backing it up with evidence on the essential oil itself? And where is that? Where can you find that in its chemistry? So let me know if this was something that took you to the next level. And I'm really curious to read your answers. So I'm going to stop sharing now and see if you have any questions. Yes, it is education. It really is. As you probably know, I come from teaching aromatherapy. So I found my students had all these questions, not being able to put it, what is what. And I think this clarity about what we are talking about helps us develop ourselves as professionals, and making our choices better and easier and more powerful, that why it's working. So yes, definitely Dropsmart is something I want to help people deepen their education and knowledge. Yes, exactly. I also found that most people cannot articulate the information they're really looking for. Not just articulate, I think it's not clear. In many books, it's not clear. Is it their opinion? Is it their experience? Or did they just copy this from another book or read it in an article? And for me personally, it was quite a journey. It was something I wanted to get to the bottom of. Are we talking about your conclusions from the chemical constituents in the oil, or are we talking about your conclusions as a therapist, or is this a scientific research? It's all valid and good. Just let me know what we're talking about so that I can be informed and make the best decision for my client or for my audience. So yes, definitely. I think it's it's the clarity of speaking and articulating it correctly. That is what will not get you in trouble with law. That's another thing that I see Dropsmarters have questions about, how to share the information and not get in trouble. And that is the way to say, this and this evidence shows that you can use lavender to help you with anxiety. Not say I think in most countries, we're still not allowed to say lavender will heal anxiety. You can get in trouble for saying that. But if we go and we pop that, like I showed you in Dropsmart, if you show the profile of lavender and then just click and say, all of this evidence supports why I will recommend lavender to help you with anxiety, then you're safe. But if you say lavender will heal anxiety, then you're crossing the line. So definitely the way you articulate yourself and all the references you put behind whatever it is that you're saying is going to help you be safe, help your clients be safe, really help you with your reputation and have people trust what you're saying. So that was my point of the day. I hope that came across and it will be useful. Have a beautiful day ahead.